I got to ask a question. Does Derrick Lewis have the skills to beat Francis Ngannou? And I was very annoyed. I was very annoyed with that question because Derrick Lewis did beat Francis Ngannou. However, I understand where it's a fair question because that was not a straight adjudication. That was a weird evening where both guys collectively, unspokenly took the night off. So you start to wonder why, right? I mean, there's still questions coming out of that fight. If Derrick wasn't stepping to the line, was it fear? Was it respect? Did he have a different game plan? If Francis wasn't stepping to the line, was it fear? Was it respect? Did he have a different game plan? Like, what did those guys see in one another? Because they both came to the same conclusion. And we've only seen 2 or 3 fights like this in history where they just absolutely laid an egg. I mean, one of them was one of the first UFC ever. Dan Severn, Ken Shamrock. Nothing happened. And neither guy had a problem with that. This used to be, I don't know if you guys recall this, but 1 round, they said there was no time limit. But of course there was. I mean, that was a little bit of marketing. There was ultimately a 30-minute time limit. But we were never told that as an audience. We were only told there's no time limit. No time limit, no rules. I mean, there was a couple of things that they did for marketing back then. But as a fan at home, we didn't know how this was going to end. And they had a pay-per-view window, and somebody like yells to the referee or to both the fighters from the outside, at 30 minutes, we're stopping this thing. And the rest of us as fans like, oh, thank God. Why didn't you do that at 3 minutes? I mean, this thing was so painful. 1993. If I'm wrong, 1994 was the year. Guys, I remember it perfectly. It was that bad. It was that kind of, and this isn't to knock on Severn or on Shamrock. I'm making a commentary that when those things happen, a lot of weird factors have to come together. To have 2 guys both having the same thing happen to them of not wanting to engage, not wanting to get close for whatever reasoning, without ever speaking about it, it's one of those very bizarre things, but it did happen. And I think it's a fair question. Why? Why did that happen? Because if Derrick's going to expect to have, and Derrick won that fight, but it's very hard to say that he won the fight, right? It's very hard to say Francis won the fight or lost the fight. There wasn't a fight. That would have been tough for the judges to. There just wasn't a fight. Derrick is going to need to figure out why. Why did I not get in there and engage? Did I just have a hard time finding him? Do I not agree with Chael, and do I not admit and accept responsibility for that? I was trying to fight. It's all his fault. Whatever it is. And I have a feeling that's probably what both athletes have told themselves for a period of time. It wasn't my fault. It was his fault. They need to figure out why they did not engage. What is it that they saw? What is it that they can do differently now? I think that's what all of us want to know as well. And I'll tell you, once you get the party started, it's going to stay hot, right? Once that music gets bumping in the club, somebody's got to turn it up in the first place. I mean, one of the best things that could possibly happen to take off whatever mask of fear that both of these guys had for each other is that when that fight starts, these 2 bull rush, just got chest to chest. Let's start in a 50-50 clinch, if you will. Let's touch each other. Let's get this going. All right, boom, now you're off to the races. Once you have that breakthrough moment in a fight, right, we'll always hear about the feeling out process when you're watching a dull 30-minute boxing match. But the truth is, as soon as they break through that, we don't ever talk about it again because it doesn't ever happen again. But somebody has to get this thing started. And in the first fight, it wasn't Derrick. And in the first fight, it wasn't Francis. So in the second fight, what is going to be different? I mean, it's very hard to break this down. There is no way that you can look at this fight and answer the question that I've been asked to answer, which is, can Derrick Lewis beat Francis? Yes. Can Francis beat Derrick? Yeah, sure. I'm not, it's one of those things from that first fight. It doesn't really matter whose hand went up. It was one of those things, but somebody's going to have to step in there and do it. And was it just a power issue? Because you would think of that as a fan, that if anybody's going to be feeling and singing the blues about their opponent's power tonight, it's going to be Derrick. Not necessarily Francis, but Francis also didn't have a tremendous option B. Like, those fights have to stay standing up for Francis to win. Even if people are talking about Francis is going to beat Stipe, then what you're saying is Francis is going to knock out Stipe. So the people are saying that Francis is going to beat John Jones. So what you're saying is Francis is going to knock out John Jones. And it's one of those things that even if Francis is a better striker or a better boxer than Derrick, and he could have put that on display, he doesn't have a plan B. So if that doesn't work out, it's not as though Francis could force a clinch, at least at that time. It's not as though Francis could go for a double leg or some kind of a judo trip, at least at that time. I don't know that that's all true now. I've seen Francis scrambling a little bit. I've seen Francis on the ground, at least through social media posts that I've come across. So maybe things have changed. When I say that both guys need to be able to answer this question, that's internally, that's to themselves. They're laying in bed at night. They're thinking about training. You're envisioning the match. And trust me, from the day that you sign a fight to fight, that is all you will think about. Every meal you eat, you're wondering what that guy's eating. Every time you go to bed, you will close your eyes. Every time you get in the car alone, you're driving down the road, listening to the radio, all you're thinking about is that guy. And one question that they both need to ask themselves is, why did the fight not happen the first time? They've spent years lying to themselves that it was the other guy's fault. But now they need to be real fair with themselves and figure out what happened and how are we going to avoid it. And I don't know that there's a good justification as to why Derrick at some point did not cut the cage off and rush Francis, because Derrick does that. It's not his preference, but he does it and he knows how to do it. Francis, I think at that time, didn't even know how to do it. Right? Francis was pretty raw. He was just, the potential was insane. Even if he'd already fought for a championship, the potential was insane, but he was raw. I think there's in many ways you can look at Francis now, and I acknowledge that he's the heavyweight champion of the world. I do not question that somebody can beat him. I will still submit for you, he's very raw. He's got a lot of potential to grow, and if he has an open mind, he will, but it's still going to bring us back, okay? We're going to do the same thing over again and expect a different result. We've had to have done something different. So I hope, and I say this as a fan that's looking forward to watching this fight, understands it could be a long contest and sure doesn't want it to be one I'm talking about 20 years from now, like I am in regards to Ken Shamrock and the Dan Severn contest. You don't want to be remembered for those kinds of reasons. You work hard, you bring your skills, you want to leave the people with something positive, a little pat on the back 20 years later, right? That's a fair statement. But what in the hell happened the first time? What was it that Francis was so scared of? Was it the right hand? Was it the left hook? Was it the uppercut? What was it he was so damn scared of? And the same thing with Derrick Lewis. I mean, his hands aren't clean in this either. How come you never cut that guy off and pushed him into the fence? Not even once. Not that you didn't succeed at doing it. I'm asking why you didn't try to do it. And those athletes need to ask themselves that same question. And this isn't about being booed or getting fight of the night or worrying that Dana's going to be mad because there wasn't enough excitement. It's not about any of this stuff. It's about you have one last opportunity to see a dream come true, right? They're not going to go to some trilogy fight if Francis goes and beats Derrick. That will be in the rear view and gone, as though that first fight never happened. Nobody will even say the word trilogy. And if Derrick can get by on Francis just this once, just this once, no matter how great Francis looks, no matter who they think is better for the posters and a bigger draw, not going to get that opportunity again because it's still 2-0, right? I mean, it's one of those things. And some of these rules are made to be broken. It looks as though Max Holloway is going to break that rule with Volkanovski, right? I mean, it wouldn't be unheard of, but I think that maybe they could use what I just said as a motivation. Man, let's get this right the first time, and let's be done with this. I'm tired of thinking about this guy. And both of them are in a position to get rid of that guy forever. Forever. Not have to see him again. But they're going to have to start with what did happen the first time, not who won, not how the judges saw it. Why did I not fight? You have two of the baddest dudes in the world who were in the cage together, but didn't fight, neither of them. They internally would serve themselves well to figure out why.